Hi, my name is Rose Dorodero Jean, and my topic is about how to become a nanny who works for high profile families. I guess I'm gonna dive right in. The first questions my friends or anybody who is interested into becoming a high profile nanny will ask you, what is a high profile nanny? Well, a high profile nanny is a nanny who works for a high profile family. And those families tend to be in the film industry: actors, producers, professional athletes, and even families who are CEOs on top of some of the biggest corporations in the US. So, what are those families looking for? Of course, because there are high paying jobs, nannies are always looking for these jobs. However, there are things you need to understand before taking on high profile family and to become a successful high profile nanny. So the first one is that you need to match their lifestyle. What do you mean, Rose? Well, what I mean is if you really like, for example, if you would like to go skiing every weekend with your friends, or you take yoga classes at 5 o'clock every day, or you have family dinner with your family every Saturday night. Those things may not work because when the family is paying you a very high rate, they're going to need flexibility from you. And also, you need to understand these families in this position, they work different hours. They're not typical 9 to 5 employees, they work long hours, they work different shift, they travel a lot, and you'll need the flexibility to accommodate them. So if your lifestyle can match that, that will work for you. So if it cannot, unfortunately, it's not gonna work for you because there are many times where you'll have to work many weekends away from your family and your friends, and many times you'll miss on holidays, birthdays, any fun things happening on the weekends. So many times you'll have to sacrifice to work as a high profile nanny. Um, and number two, you'll need to obviously have a background in childcare. You'll have to have a strong background in childcare to understand the development stages. So if you start with a family when they are child or the children are infants, you'll have to understand how to go to the different stages as their children grow and develop. So you'll need to have a strong understanding of the stages. And if you have some kind of background or degree in childcare, those are great. They don't have to be childcare related, but some kind of post-secondary degree is always looked up on. That's great. And of course, if you're a seasoned nanny, a seasoned nanny is someone who has been specifically a nanny, not just daycare workers or teachers, which are also fantastic, but seasoned nannies who work in a home and understand what it takes to work in a busy home. I know I have friends who are teachers and also sometimes registered nurses, because sometimes if the high profile client has a kid who is ill, for example, have diabetes or on the spectrum for autism, sometimes they'll want somebody with an RN background to be their nanny, and that will also work. And honestly, when I started working as a nanny, I did not have any background in childcare. I was working as a human resources assistant. And once I got laid off and I was looking, for other job in that field, and my one of my friends said, you know what? I think you'll be good as a nanny. And I'm like, what's that? I don't want to be a nanny. I knew what it was. And I'm like, oh, why? I don't want to be working with kids. And I had kids of my own at the time. And she's like, no, because I see how you are with kids when they come into the office and they're always on to you. So I think it would be great. And she said, well, I have someone who's looking, and here's the job description, and see if you are interested. And at the time, it was for a stay at home mom, and the dad was working in the city, and they needed somebody to work to help the mom, like a mother's helper. And I did what I did. I used my common sense, and I studied, and they liked me. And that position had opened doors for me to this day. And I've been with my current family now for 10 years. And I've worked as a personal assistant for them because now the kids don't really need 100% childcare. So I do personal assistant for my boss and also as a nanny, and it works great. But it's tough. When I said tough, my schedule is very busy. I work sometimes 12 to 14 hours a day, and I travel a lot. The perks, so great perks. You travel first class or you travel private, and you travel around the world. But then I always tell my friends that whether or not I travel a lot, whether I go on beautiful resorts, whether I get to meet, important people, it's not my vacation. It's their vacation, and I'm still the nanny, and I still need to be professional. And what else? It's working to find a job as a high profile. You need to work. It's always best if you've had this kind of position in the past. A lot of high profile families look for nannies who have worked in this position before. It can be hard to break in, but once you break in, it's much easier to get other roles because they've seen you work for other actors, or they've seen you work for other professional athletes. So the families know you understand their needs. And sometimes it can be easier to break in if you work a temporary position at their home, or if you're the second nanny. Sometimes, right now I'm a head nanny, and then I have a co-nanny who works with me. The co-nanny works part-time. So that's a good experience for her to work in a high profile homes. And also the weekend nannies also sometimes work long hours, and they also have co-nannies who work to help them. Because imagine you start a day at 6 a.m. and many times 8 p.m. your day is not done. So many times it's hard, and that's why you need to make sure that that's what you want to do, and that you love your job. It's all about loving what you do. And the fact that I love it, I don't, and then I have great bosses, so it doesn't feel like, oh my God, I'm dreading to go to work. I enjoy going to work, and I enjoy what I do. And also, one other thing that you need to know, you need to also to interview well. You have to be confident and knowledgeable. They don't want to see any mink nannies or nannies who are unsure of themselves. They really want confident nanny who fit well with their family. And so that's something you'll need to work on, like practicing your interview skills will be a great thing. Even though I have not interviewed in a while, but from time to time, my friends will ask me, oh, Rose, can you interview me and see if I'm answering the questions right? Or sometimes also I interview some of the staff members for my boss, because and I'm confident on what I'm doing, and when I ask them questions, not to trap them, so at least I could see how confident they are. So it's always good to be prepared in any interview, and then the families like to see that the person they're going to employ is confident. Also, confidentiality, 100% confidentiality in almost all these clients will require you to sign an agreement separate from your contract. Some families, depending on what level they are in terms of public eye, they will require you to not to tell anyone who you're working for. So that can be really difficult if you can tell your friends and family who you're working for, but that may be the case. So there's zero tolerance that you'll report, because then you can be sued. To conclude, these are some of the tips, not all of them. That's really the start of it. And some agencies, when you go for jobs like this, will choose some nannies and not others. Why? Because you need to be highly polished, like I've said before, highly educated, and you need to be seasoned with experience, and also someone who stayed at their position for a decent amount of time, not someone who's changing their position all the time. So they're looking for somebody who's been stable at their job, so that can work with them. And also someone with flexibility, or can-do attitude, someone who says yes instead of no. That's not in my job descriptions. Many times as nannies, we get asked to do things that we don't want to do. For example, some of those high profile families have dogs, and sometimes if the dog walker is not there, so they might ask you to walk the dog, and in walking the dog you need to also clean the dog. So if the dog poop in the street, so you need to pick up the poop and clean it up. And some nannies don't like that, so it's really important that and you ask questions in advance, so everybody's on the same page. Hopefully those tips helped. These are just the basic and just the starting point. And hopefully, if you are interested into becoming a high profile nanny, that will give you somewhere to go and to do your research to working for a high profile nanny. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.